Welcome to the Manifestation Lab. This is your host, Kelly Howe. From the grounded science to the mystical and unseen, we're investigating this big experiment we call life and finding what really works when it comes to manifesting a life that sets your heart and your soul on fire. Welcome to the lab.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you. I was trying to think if we'd ever crossed paths or met in the past. I think we kind of run in similar circles, but I don't know if we ever met.
I don't think we have, but we're kindred spirits, and I appreciate your opportunity to share.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for being with me. I think we'll just launch right in, and I'm really excited to talk about Healium. I've been kind of poking around and learning as much as I can about it, but I can't wait to hear the inner workings of what the studies are showing and what you're seeing on the ground with people. So why don't you start with just telling us a little bit about yourself and what Healium is?
Great. So my name is Sarah Hill. I'm the CEO of Healium, and we are a mental fitness company with a product that uses virtual and augmented reality powered by your body's electricity via wearables that you already have in your home, as a reminder that we all have healing powers inside ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was reading on the website and it started talking about the electricity in the body, I was like, yes, these people are speaking my language.
Yeah, our body captures, our body emits electricity.
Yeah.
Like your heart rate is electricity, and via your forehead, there's brain patterns that emit electricity as well. And all Healium is doing is creating content, essentially, out of your brain patterns and your heart rate via wearables that you have in your home. So the one issue with traditional meditation, while it's certainly has great value for people, is that some people struggle with it because it's not visual, and they close their eyes to try to meditate and they see nothing. Mm-hmm. And some people do have that mind's eye, but then there are those of us that don't always have that mind's eye. So having the ability to have something visual that you can actually see your brain patterns and heart rate in real time, and to learn to self-regulate those brain patterns and heart rate, and because it's a muscle that we normally don't have the ability to see, to know, am I doing this right? And so Healium is just that feeling mirror that personifies the data that comes from your wearables into stories and into 3D assets that you can actually control.
Yeah, that is so cool. And I love that you said that, because that's kind of one of my frustrations with meditation. I mean, I don't know that you voiced it like it was a frustration, but there are so many people that don't have an easy time meditating. And to be honest with you, I can sit down and meditate now that I've done personal development work for a long time and really regulated my nervous system. But even still, I don't love it. And I don't love the traditional, just sit down, clear your mind kind of thing. So I'm really excited to maybe give this a try at some point and see what that looks like for me. The thing that I would like for you to kind of get into and talk about is so it's virtual reality. So talk to me, is that a headset that you put on? And then does it connect with, you said other wearables, so an Apple Watch, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an Apple Watch or an EEG meditation headband. We're adding additional wearables to our platform all the time. So our first headband is a BrainLink Lite EEG headband. And, traditional meditation certainly still has value for some
Absolutely,
people.
Yeah.
And it's just a different flavor. Much as you have different workouts that you try, or, with your own physical fitness regimen, you need to mix it up sometimes. Well, Healium is, one of the things in your toolkit that you can use. But ultimately, anything that captures data and has the ability to produce a real-time stream of biometric data, we can use inside our content. And at its core, it's a storytelling platform. I mean, these are our stories. Stories are how we learn, how we make sense of the world. And so they are visual stories that have metaphors throughout them. There's a magic snow globe where, you can make the flurries fly inside the snow globe with your feelings of positivity. And it's just that reminder that we do have healing powers inside ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have the ability to learn to self-heal and self-regulate, and that our thoughts do have power to control things, not only in the virtual world, but then in the real world as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to make sure I understand. And I think I do. So you are in the virtual reality, and the story that you're seeing actually changes with your brainwaves or with your biology as you're calming yourself down and getting yourself regulated. What you're seeing actually changes with that. Is that right?
That's correct.
Oh,
And
yeah.
virtual reality is essentially goggles that you put on, like much like a pair of ski goggles, and it immerses you inside a video. So unlike looking through your phone or tablet and the video is flat,
Mm-hmm.
in virtual reality, when you put the goggles on, when you turn your head right or left, or if you look up, you're inside a bubble, if you will, of video, and you can look in 360 degrees. And these aren't like fast moving, quick videos. These are, slow, controlled. You're in a seated experience. And they're meant to be very calming, relaxing, and also focusing as well. And they're all beautiful nature-based escapes. But that's what virtual reality is. It's just a fancy word for immersive video.
Mm-hmm.
That's all around you. And some of these environments are generated by a computer, and some of them are actually video that we've shot with, cameras, 6 up to 24, set up in a big circle to be able to capture in all spaces. But it's just tricking the brain into thinking that you're not in your current stressful situation. It's taking you somewhere else to escape your current reality, not forever,
Right.
but to downshift your nervous system,
Mm-hmm.
and then also create a stored memory inside your mind that you can go back to in a stressful situation. If you struggle with imagining the beach, well, there's a beach inside Helium that you can, visualize in your mind's eye. But that's what virtual reality is. Just think of it as immersive video.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, as people do virtual reality, does it actually help strengthen their visualization muscle at all? I'm curious. Have you ever noticed that?
So we don't have data to support that, but there are other researchers who have done great work about associative memories.
Mm-hmm.
So, seeing something and then being able to recall it later. And that's essentially what we're doing with Helium and Sleepium. We also have a sleep product as well that you can view these experiences inside the goggles. They have blue light filters, but inside the goggles before you go to bed at night to, be taken someplace else. And you're in bed and all that pressure is off your neck and you're lying down and you're inside a peaceful waterfall. And you can turn your head right and left on the pillow and you're still in that waterfall. But again, creating some memories that when you don't have the goggles, because obviously we're not advocating that you wear them all the time. The best place is in reality. But, to help develop that mind's eye and create that associative memory in your mind that you can go back to.
Yeah. So what type of person is perfect for Helium? What kind of struggles does your perfect person walk in with?
So somebody who struggles with sleep. And I was, one of those people. I struggled with insomnia for years. I was a television news reporter. As a news reporter, you cover the bad stuff in the world. And, the worst days of, a lot of people's lives is what, you as a reporter sadly have to cover. And, ultimately that media diet of negativity and trauma and death and destruction and conflict, having to interview people who had lost children, that it made me sick.
Oh, and I can't imagine.
couldn't get it out of my head. And so I struggled with sleep at first and insomnia. And then when you're not sleeping, you're worried about not sleeping. And it becomes this cyclic, toxic loop. And ultimately that led to panic attacks because my body was not, getting the proper reset ever. And I, tried medication. It made me feel weird and had side effects that I wasn't able to, get over. And so I was looking for drugless solutions. I turned to neurofeedback. And back in the day when I was trying it more than a decade ago, you had to glue electrodes on your forehead with glue. And they still do that now. And gel, and sit in front of a computer and watch a very boring
right. I've seen those
plane move up and down. And so I would make up stories for myself about how to cool my jets with this airplane and downshift my nervous system. And anyway, that experience and my struggle with insomnia and panic attacks led me to try to seek out those drugless solutions. And Helium is a combination of neurofeedback, biofeedback inside virtual and augmented reality environments. These are essentially spatial computing environments inside your phone, where you're bringing in 3D assets into your living room, even without goggles. But that's the journey that the path. The very meandering, nonlinear path that took me to form Healium.
Okay. So it's interesting. I think so many people that end up in the wellness / healing space have a story so similar that they're like, stressed out, not sleeping. I've never thought of, obviously I try to tell my clients and anybody who will listen to kind of do a news detox, but I've never thought about what that must be like for you all on the other side, having those conversations and seeing that up front and center. And that I can't imagine how hard that must have been. My story is similar in the sense that I was working as a nurse, doing labor and delivery and working night shift. And although having babies is usually a very, wonderful, positive experience, it's like working in the ER and you never know what's going to walk through the door. And there can be someone walking in with a pregnancy loss or bleeding to death, or, it's just a million different things that can go wrong. And my story is really similar. I just all of a sudden was like, you went from being cool, calm, and collected and kind of the like, I can handle everything. Like I'm cool, I'm good. To not being able to sleep, to like startling at loud noises, couldn't do bright lights. I would definitely call it a panic attack now, like looking back, but it was really, I'm curious to see if you had this same kind of thing. Cause at first I was like, my body is really messed up. like I'm fine, I'm fine, but my body, like, I don't know why my heart's racing. I don't know why I'm nauseous all the time. I don't know why I'm shaky. I don't know why I'm startling. Of course, now I understand I was just, in fight or flight, like all the time. Did you have a similar experience with that?
Absolutely. And I got chills in the back of my neck when you said, a brightness to lights. And at first I thought I was having seizures or something like that. And I went to all these doctors to, try, because I was convinced it was something that was physically wrong with my body, because I did not want to admit to myself that, I had a stress.
I'm stressed. I was the same.
My husband, counseling psychologist, he said to me, and he saw me when I was having these episodes. I would stutter. My heart would be racing. I felt like I was going to die. The hair, I felt like my hair was on fire and, very shaky. My hands were shaky all the time. And he said, Sarah, I know what he didn't say wrong, but I know what you're experiencing. And I was like, what? He said, these are classic signs, honey, of a panic attack.
Yeah.
And I said, no.
Yeah.
No,
Same.
That is not it. That is not it. I'm having a seizure. This is a heart issue. This is, and they ruled all of that out. And bottom line is it, fight or flight. And I had pushed my lack of sleep, my constantly on in my devices. And, it is a diet. You have a media diet, what you consume with your eyes, what you consumed in those labor and delivery rooms, it stays with you. And there's a great book out there, about how the body keeps score.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And my body was keeping score every time I was, interviewing someone who'd lost a child or, a car accident. We went in with the trauma teams in the aftermath of the tsunami in Sri Lanka and Indonesia. And looking back, how did I not think that my, body couldn't mentally react to that? I don't know why I didn't make that connection, but ultimately, yes, it was panic attacks, and it was that lack of sleep ultimately that triggered with it. And you hear this a lot from frontline healthcare workers, journalists, first responders, and you, Kelly, as that nurse, you are a worker athlete. Mm-hmm. And sometimes journalists are worker athletes. They are tactical athletes who are on the front lines covering trauma. And sometimes we don't think about ourselves as athletes and the need to prepare not just our body, our physical bodies, but our minds for battle. And that's what nurses and journalists and firefighters and physicians and counselors who are seeing, they're battling compassion fatigue every single day. And, if we don't have that mental fitness, that strength, or that mental health armor, well, of course, we're going to struggle with sleep and panic attacks. And so, there's now, decades later, great conversations about that. But when I was going through it, there was no kind of mental training or mental fitness training at my workplace or going through school. And, essentially we're sending out these future nurses and journalists and firefighters woefully unprepared for that.
Yeah, the conversation, you hear like trauma informed a lot now. That term gets floated around quite a bit, but I never got any trauma informed care or education as a nurse. And I would be curious, nurses are, and I would bet journalists are the same in this way, where there is kind of this like toughness that that you have to carry into your job, right? Like, I know I've got to pull my shit together and be there for this other person and be there for all these other people. But I think that comparative suffering that like Brene Brown talks about comes into play when you see such horrific things, or, it doesn't even have to be horrific things, but I know nurses, I would say, are probably the worst about going, well, I don't have it so bad. You see this thing over here. I don't have it so bad. That's trauma. What I'm going through. No, I'm fine, and I would imagine that journalists probably have a similar, when you're watching that up front, that there's no time to be like, I'm really struggling here,
Absolutely. And, as journalists and as nurses, in order to provide good care, or journalists, in order to tell a good story, you have to step inside the story of someone else and internalize their pain in a way to better understand some of their experience. So, what you describe is, exactly what's happening in so many of those tactical athlete situations and this stress Olympics that we're all in, regardless of our occupation. And, not all of us have trained for it.
Yeah, I would say most of us probably haven't. You mentioned the shaking of the hands, and that was really one of my first experiences with recognizing, oh my God, I can regulate my own body. I'm not sure if you're familiar with tapping, but that's my expertise, is the EFT world. And I tried the tapping. I watched a video and thought it was insane as a nurse. I'm like, surely I would know about this if this was real. And I tried it, and I actually focused on, because I had noticed that when I would drive to work, my hands would shake. And in my head, I would be going, oh, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm no big deal. Well, I tapped and I focused on that shaky hands, and it stopped. And that was like the biggest light bulb moment for me, going like, okay, we can regulate this. I'm not broken. Something made me this way, these events accumulated, and there are things that you can do to retrain yourself. and get back to that regulated nervous system. So
yeah, absolutely. Tapping, another great example of one of many tools that we need in our toolbox. Not just digiceuticals or neurofeedback or,
I'm like,
all
give it all to me. I will try it all.
Because if you think in our regular medicine cabinet, how much medicine do we have? Like a whole medicine cabinet full. Our mental wellness should be the same way.
Absolutely.
It's not, specifically when it comes to non-pharmaceutical interventions.
Yeah, definitely. So coming back to Healium, if somebody wanted to start with it, like they're listening or they see it on Instagram, what's the first step to getting yourself immersed in that experience?
So go out to Best Buy or go online and get some VR goggles. You can get an Oculus Quest 2 for about $299.
Yeah, my son actually has one of those.
Yeah, and a lot of moms' children or teenagers have them already. And so just search for Healium in the VR App Store. And Healium is spelled Healium, like healing, but Healium. And we have a free version of the app that you can try out, or if you'd like to sign up for a trial, you can do that. And then our pro subscribers, there are 30 different nature-based experiences and guided meditations about focus, positivity, calm, mindfulness, and sleep. And those 30 experiences on the platform, every 60 days, we update it with a new piece of content so that it never gets old. And then you start with that. Just start with just plain VR and getting used to immersing yourself inside those experiences, and also, viewing those stories in a reclined position, lying down. And you can click a button on the remote control and it will, allow you to view that content while you're laying down on your back. And then if you want to get a little bit more advanced training, get an EEG headband. You can get one online, a brain link online, or you can get a headband from us as well. And you can, practice training. Training is not relaxing. When we say training, we really mean lean forward training. Mm-hmm. Using that headband at first is not easy to do because chances are you've never seen your brain patterns in near real time. And so it's awkward at first to know how do I control this experience again? And then if beyond, VR goggles, if you don't want to use VR goggles, we do have an augmented reality app as well. It's not as immersive, but certainly something you can try, and it works with your Apple Watch. So on, your iPhone, search the Apple Store, search Healium in the Apple Store. It's a free download, and you can see what those experiences are like. And then if you want to, you can add an Apple Watch integration and you can actually see your heart rate streamed inside these experiences. If you lower your heart rate, then butterflies will hatch out of this augmented reality chrysalis and they'll fly around the room.
Oh, that's cool.
You can illuminate a solar system by lowering your heart rate. You can open up a magic portal inside your living room. You can walk through that portal, or if you don't have mobility, you can teleport through that portal, and then you're inside another virtual world. Not as immersive again.
That sounds so cool.
It's portable, and in its simplest form, it's free.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So, what are you guys doing? Any fun studies with this stuff? I know Jeff Tarrant is your chief, science guy. So what are you guys finding with what are you measuring? And I'm so curious on that side of things.
Yeah, Jeff has been really busy, as well as we have external partners researching Healium as well. And there have been 5 peer-reviewed journal studies showing that Healium quickly reduces anxiety, improved mood in as little as 4 minutes in those studies.
Wow.
And basically looking at brain patterns. So full, 24 sensor EEG caps with glue, clinical grade EEG, and looking at how does different kind of content impact brain patterns and heart rate differently. Also, we've been giving subjective surveys, Brunel inventory surveys, state trait anxiety surveys to measure, okay, how is this content impacting mood? But, the ability to, beyond surveys, paper surveys, to look at the brain and see exactly how is the brain responding to those experiences, much as you might do that with a drug. We're compounding media in a way, kind of like compounding a drug, not a replacement for psychotropic medication or professional counseling, which we all know is one of the best things that we can do for ourselves. But as a portable, drugless tool that you have the ability to use at home or in your office to, try to sleep better and feel better and learn to self-regulate.
Yeah.
Doing a lot with sleep. And pairing Healium with cognitive behavioral therapy and without, doing research with addiction as replacement for opioids, doing some work before surgery, so before cardiac surgery and before your chest is the anxiety that comes with that, and when you reduce anxiety, you improve outcomes. You actually reduce the likelihood that you will die after you have a procedure, if going into that procedure, your anxiety is reduced. So huge opportunities in the space of research and anxiety management. And we've only scratched the surface with those 5, showing reductions in anxiety and mood improvement and also engagement. If you look at differences between regular audio meditation and full-on VR with feedback, you see significant improvements in mood and reductions in anxiety when you have that immersiveness and that feedback. So a study was just published in Frontiers in VR Medicine, looking at 100 frontline healthcare workers that were using Healium and these mind-powered EEG powered experiences, and seeing significant improvements in mood and anxiety very quickly in a matter of minutes. And we're excited to dig in and do more.
Yeah, that's research. So exciting. As you were talking, it kind of got me thinking. It's almost like, I'm so fascinated by the things like psilocybin assisted therapy, and it got me thinking when you were talking about like calming your brainwaves and going through a portal. It's almost like recreating some sort of existential experience without the psychedelics. I don't know. It's really fascinating. I'm really excited to get in there and play with the lighting the universe up or the solar system one. That one sounds fun.
And you raised a great point. Cyberdelics is,
it's a thing?
Media. Well, it's media that can mimic, the effects of psychedelics. And we've had some people in our experiences who tell us, this reminds me of ayahuasca.
Right.
A time when I did. But Jeff and Dr. Terrence is an expert and speaks a lot about psychedelic assisted therapies. And Healium is not, designed to be used during a psychedelic experience, but certainly, there's value in learning to self-manage your anxiety either before or after one of those experiences. And, we're excited to learn more about that field and, how Healium, could potentially be paired in some of those instances. But, certainly media impacts brain patterns much as a psychedelic experience would as well.
Yeah. I'm excited to get a hold of my son's Oculus. Try some of this out. Sarah, you mentioned focus being one of the things that Healium can help with. Is there anything different in the scenes that you would pick, or anything different that you would do in like exercising that muscle? Or is it just that when we bring our stress down, focus is kind of a natural side effect of that?
Yeah, a little bit of both. And what our brain pattern algorithms are measuring is a state of focused calm. So a state of being relaxed, but yet alert.
Mm-hmm.
And, the ability to train that in yourself. And so some of our focus experiences, you're floating through a cave and you see this light at the end of the cave. And, your goal is to keep your attention on the light, but you're also, focusing on an object or sensation, your feet on the floor or your hands on your lap, and getting into your mindset of what you need to think about in order to move forward in that experience. And inside Helium, your brain patterns are displayed as a firefly that moves up and down according to your focus calm. So it's kind of like a high jump. If that firefly goes up over a little horizontal line, that's good. That means your brain patterns associated with focus calm are improving it and going up. And then if it dips down below that threshold, the background turns red or it dims. You can select it either way in settings as a gentle reminder to the user that their focus calm has dipped and they need to either breathe more or focus on an object or a sensation to bring that back up. And that negative feedback is really important. I know when we first started Healium, I'm like, do we have to put the negative feedback in? That's like a red pin on their piece of paper.
Right.
And, Dr. Tarrant was, very good to educate me that, negative that's how you learn.
That's how we learn. Yeah.
Have any kind of notice of correction, you don't know, to make that
there's nothing to compare it to. Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody's brain patterns are different. So you can adjust difficulty inside the experience by dragging a slider, that high jump bar, if you will, higher or lower, and, really find the sweet spot on how you want to train. And the first time you use it, you should absolutely toggle it all the way easy.
Mm-hmm.
But then, as that gets easier and you get 100% all the time, where you can start toggling a little bit harder.
If somebody was going to use it for something like focus, is that something you would recommend using daily, or is there a protocol really with that?
Yeah. So once in the morning and once at night is what Jeff recommends. So to set your intention for the day, and then to, downshift, get all of life's dirt and that media toxicity out of your mind before sleep.
Okay. And how long are those sessions normally, morning and evening?
So 4 to 20 minutes.
Yeah. So doable.
Yeah, absolutely. And, anything longer than 30 minutes inside the goggles, it can get sweaty, or uncomfortable. So really, we're talking about just doing a few sessions or one session. And in, our research, you've been able to see significant shifts in brain patterns, again, very quickly in about 4 minutes.
It sounds like what you've described might help with someone like me, that sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm kind of more on, like, I'm not overly amped. I'm more on the meh side. So can you use it in that same way to kind of train yourself up when you're feeling a little bit flat?
Yeah. I mean, training that feeling of being relaxed, but yet alert. And there are fractal animations in there that are, activating. And there are stories about positivity, and that make for great preparations to the day.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So are you a daily Healium user?
Yes. And more important than a daily Healium user, I am a nightly Healium user. Yeah. So, that is how I use my product the most. It was the reason why, I formed the company, and formed that product, was having an inability to sleep. And, having that drugless solution was really important for me, because I wasn't able to handle the side effects of medication. And, a lot of people struggle with that. And sleep medications do have side effects. And this is not a replacement for that. They don't do necessarily the same things.
Mm-hmm.
But as, I wanted to teach myself how to better control and better downshift.
How to sleep again. I want to sleep again. Yeah.
Well, just to quiet those ruminating thoughts.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That was what I couldn't shut it off.
Oh man. When I was working night shift, so I had the hours all messed up anyway. And then with you, like the thoughts that just wouldn't stop and wouldn't stop. Can you speak to the feeling of when you can actually get your sleep regulated again? Mm-hmm. How life-changing that is.
Yeah. You don't really realize how bad off you are just going through that state of hyper alertness through the day. Because in some ways it's energizing.
Right.
But then you just never have that reset.
Yeah.
And, when you wake up after you've had a good sleep at night, food tastes better.
Right.
The air, you breathe better. Your posture is better. It just, your mood is better, and it improves everything about your day. And I never realized how important, sleep really was until my body just revolted and short circuited.
How long do you think that you were in that state? Like, if you really look back at it, how long were you hovering there?
I would say probably off and on for about 3 years. And it took me probably at least a year to admit to myself that it wasn't seizures, that it wasn't a heart issue.
Yeah.
But off and on, for about 3 years. And then I had sleep studies, and I could not sleep in the sleep studies because, I was wired for sound, and I was worried about the sleep. Here I am, in the sleep clinic, and I can't even fall asleep,
I know. I don't know how anyone does.
How this whole, looping in your head.
I don't know how anyone sleeps in those, like people watching you and hooked up to things in a weird environment, not your bed, not your pillow. Like, it's just so weird.
Yeah. And then, struggling with that anxiety as well. But I can feel, I know what that feeling is like when I start to get those ruminating thoughts. And I have to remind myself that good sleep hygiene begins during the day, not at night. Mm-hmm. It's not just about the caffeine and the temperature of the room. It begins during the day of, sessions to learn to self-regulate my brain patterns and my heart rate and my stress level. Mm-hmm. You as well as anyone, as a nurse, you're going a mile a minute, and journalists are required to be on all the time. Mm-hmm. If there's a hailstorm at 2 a.m, the impetus in your mind is that you need to get up and take a picture of that hailstone and post about it. Oh my gosh,
I can't imagine.
So it's nonstop. And I did a great service to myself. I loved television. I worked for great companies that fully supported me, but it was a very smart move to get out of that business of constant, and the culture, rewarded the workers for, I haven't slept in 3 days. I've been covering this, during 9/11. We didn't sleep for days because we were doing wall-to-wall coverage, and that was celebrated.
Right. Here's your gold star.
Right.
Yay, you didn't sleep for 3 days. Awesome.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I ultimately that's why I ended up leaving nursing as well. Cause it felt to me, once I could really lay my eyes on it, I loved my job, and it was so painful to walk away from, but it felt like an abusive relationship at the same time, where it was like, there was love there, but I felt like I was being beaten up by the circumstances that would never change. Like, that environment was never going to change. So I had to make the choice to get out of that as well. So I
Yeah.
completely
And
understand.
I'm glad that you found that, that piece as well. And, I find myself just having to guard myself from the images. And maybe you're this way when it comes to watching TV shows that take you back there. But
Mm-hmm.
I consume a lot of my media in newspapers, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how I get my information now, or in radio. Just sometimes because the visual,
Yeah.
is really the visual is very real.
Triggering.
Well, it's real, and just as media can hurt your nervous system, it can also heal.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way of providing, positive forms of media fiber in your
Yeah.
diet.
Yeah. I'm so happy to connect with you because I feel like there is a revolution happening in the wellness world. And just like you, I think that there's a time and a place for medication, but I really see that I see a lot of people waking up to other solutions, waking up to the idea that it doesn't have to be only a medication. There are other things that I can do. Or, like you said, they tried it and maybe it just didn't work with their body. I fortunately had something stubborn inside of me that was like, there is something that I'm going to figure this out, like it was like intuitively, I just knew. I'm like, there is some way out of this. But I feel like there is a revolution happening in psychology and in the wellness world. And we need things like helium and tapping and, all the other millions of things that are coming to the surface now. And we need to be able to put that out there for people so they know oh, okay, I thought there might be something and there it is. There's something to try.
Absolutely. EMDR.
Yes.
And, talk therapy.
Yeah, absolutely.
As well. And just try, as many flavors of what works for you. And helium certainly, isn't for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But, finding those drugless, non-harmful coping mechanisms. I wish that I would have learned that when I was a young child.
Yes.
That I had what I think about in my mind makes me feel better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Seems so simple, but yet, some schools teach meditation, but even beyond that, teaching tools to learn to self-regulate,
Mm-hmm.
when they get in a stressful situation or they can't sleep or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. I feel like that should be a huge part of the curriculum, more important than so many things that they crammed in our head when we were in school. Right. I really think that should be part of it, like learning to cook and, how to be an adult and pay bills and all that stuff. It's like real life skills.
Right. Mental fitness.
Fitness.
Just like in health class, they, taught us physical fitness.
Yeah.
Well, the mind is a very important organ.
Yeah. Definitely. I have one more question about helium, and keep coming back to it. I'm somebody who there are some virtual reality things that I do very well with, and I really like. My sons have the Beat Saber game. I love that.
Oh,
it's so fun. Have you done that?
Oh my gosh, yes.
So
our
fun.
Whole office enjoys it, and that's good, for the mind as well. And Supernatural is another great app.
I haven't done that one
on Quest, and it's physical. It's lightsabers that you essentially are slicing these, but it's good workout for your arms and your legs.
Yeah, that's fun.
Time passes very quickly.
Yeah, there's certain ones that I think are so fun. There are other ones that make me really nauseous. Have people talked about that at all with the
Yes. Certainly if you struggle with motion sickness, that's something, or bright lights or anything like that, that's something that you really want to be aware of.
Okay.
Most of some of the experiences, they have a little indicator on how comfortable it is or how much motion there is inside the experience. And so you'll want to stay away from the ones that have the warning about comfort and motion.
Okay.
Helium's experiences aren't, they're stationary. You're not walking around a room or spinning, or anything like that. So, but certainly if you do struggle with motion sickness, you should be aware of it. Now, I do have some friends who were like, I don't know what I want to try that because I struggle with motion sickness. And they had seen the videos of putting people inside a roller coaster and, all these things on TV. And so
even thinking about that makes me want to throw up.
Yeah. They were scared to even try it. And then, once they get in the goggles, they're like, oh, well, this isn't anything, like I was worried about. I'm in a forest and I'm looking around the forest. And so, but obviously, keep that in mind. And if you do want to try it, just keep, look at some of those ratings on some of the
don't go for
apps.
the overstimulating ones.
No. And that's the great thing about, VR headsets is, there are all kinds of different travel apps and, neat things that you can do beyond just Healium or Beat Saber or Supernatural.
Yeah, that's really fun. Have you guys explored or talked about doing anything where you measure things like cortisol or some fun biomarkers in blood work? I would be so curious.
Not cortisol specifically. We have done skin conductance and blood pressure. Those beyond EEG, heart rate, HRV, and also experimenting with some very fascinating inputs like aroma. And so there's a great company called OVR that's integrating scent inside virtual reality experiences.
Oh, that's neat.
And aroma penetrates the brain really deeply. And so there's, some fascinating feature learnings about that as it relates to creating immersive experiences.
That's really cool.
All the different inputs that you can use and then pairing those scents with Healium experiences.
Oh, wow. That's really neat. That's really, really cool. What are you all finding with HRV? Are you seeing that number change pretty quickly, or is that something that happens over time?
So as an output, yes, it can be measured, but as an input right now, with the Apple Watch, we haven't integrated that. What data streams work best as an input into Healium are real-time data streams that go up and down in real time. And HRV, of course, is a little bit of a different animal in that it has to be captured over a longer length of time. And so we're working to integrate HRV into our product. It's not yet because we have to do a little bit of work on the back end to account for the data being captured over a chunk of time, as opposed to a single point in time, like heart rate that goes up and down. Okay.
Fascinating. Oh, Sarah, I'm so excited to try this out.
Well, I'm glad you are going to try it. We love, feedback and, would love to help anyone with their virtual reality headset. These are new pieces of equipment and, know that our team, is here to support and just sending you positive vibes. And thank you for the opportunity to share. Keep going in what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Voice. Yeah,
thank you. I really appreciate that. And your time is so valuable to me. Is there a way, what website can I send people to, or Instagram handle? How can people find you?
Yeah, if you search Healium XR on Instagram, or on Twitter or on Facebook, or just send them to our website, which is tryhealium.com. And again, Healium is spelled Healium.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Have an awesome day. It was so lovely to connect with you.
It was lovely to connect with you. You have a beautiful spirit. And so thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you. I feel the same. I hope I'll get to talk to you again soon.
I'm sure our paths will cross again.
I think so. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah. Bye, Kelly.